So the question I was asking you a little bit earlier was, a lot of my friends in the mortgage and real estate space, they are aware that digital and social media and their brand is super important.
Yeah.
They're all trying to figure it out. There's like 50 different levels, right?
Yes.
People have never been in front of a camera. People have done it, but just haven't taken the next level.
Right.
And I'm noticing this huge like flourishing of pop-up like people who are in digital space and can do your videos and do your shorts, and we get them through the DMs
all day.
Talk to us about some of the mistakes that you see people making, like what to look out for when it comes to creative and digital. Like, give us some knowledge. For example, like, should we engage people that are not local? Like, should we look for somebody that's just an editor? Like, just give us some wisdom.
Yeah. So if you're in real estate or mortgage, right, and you're like, I know I got to jump in digital, right? The first mistake I see a lot of people make is that they listen to everybody. So many gurus will say, you got to do it like this, you got to do it like this, you got to do it like this, right? You got to hire a VA, you got to hire what we call a shredder, right? A shooter editor. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of information. So number one, I would reverse the end goal in mind, right? Reverse engineer what you're trying to accomplish. So if you don't know what you're trying to accomplish, that is going to lead to many different, just different things.
A la carte.
Yeah. So you're going to try things, and you're going to fail at them, which is fine because you're trying to find that voice and cadence. But if you don't have an idea of where you want to go first, then it's going to be really challenging to figure out what method of content creation you're going to utilize, because there's different vehicles when it comes to digital marketing, right? And a lot of people don't talk about the vehicles because they believe their version or method is the greatest version and method. So if you hear someone or, a social media agency comes in and be like, we're going to charge you this much, and this is we're going to make this many pieces of content for you. They never talk about the outcomes. They never ask you, well, what do you do? They never ask you what is your desired outcomes? Like, what does your lifestyle look like? What does your schedule look like? How long, how much time can you set aside to make content? Are you the one making content? How much do you know about making content? Do you use your phone? Do you have a camera? So they don't even ask those questions in the beginning. Okay. Which is one of the biggest red flags for me.
I was just going to say, okay, so takeaway number one for us simple-minded people.
Yeah.
If they don't ask a bunch of questions before they say they can do something for you, that should be a major red flag.
That should be, yes.
It's like people quoting interest rates and they don't even know what your credit score is, how much down, all that stuff.
Absolutely. And one of my things that I say is what you don't know is you just don't know, right? So what you don't know, you don't know. So how do you know what questions to ask somebody, especially if they're an expert guru or an expert in their field that comes to you and says, I could triple your viewership or your reach or your impact, and they use these buzzword salads, and they're like, oh, this sounds amazing.
Buzzword salad, I like that.
Yeah, buzzword salads is basically what these social media experts are saying nowadays to get your attention.
Could that be warning number two?
That is a warning.
They start making numbers promises and growth promises right out of the gate.
If anybody makes you any promise, right, that is about doubling your leads or your income or putting people on your calendar, it's not that it's bad. It's just a red flag for me where I have to dig and ask more questions about their process and systems. Right. So it's just an indicator. It's not like a tiebreaker or a deal breaker. I just, first of all, want to get to know you. I want to know your process. How long have you been doing this for? Do you have any case studies? Do you have any examples? Can I see some of your work, your recent work, not your old work? Like, what have you done recently?
Oh, there you go. Okay, so there's bullet point number 3. Can you send me a few examples of work that you've done recently?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And those are some just things to gauge the conversation, because when you're trying to hire a creative or hire somebody or partner with someone, really it's social proof. Like, what can you do together? Sometimes the past work isn't even relevant. It's like, all right, well, if you vibe with me and we vibe together and we're aligned in the outcomes in our mission, then let's make something happen.
Right.
And that's another thing that I would feel like would be an indicator. Does this person gel well? Chemistry.
Yeah.
Right? Do we make good chemistry together?
Right.
Do we work together really well? Do we vibe? Do we have the same language? Do we speak the same kind of language when it comes to outcomes and all those things?
I think that's super important because one thing I like about you is you're running a business.
Yes.
Like you actually have structure and expectations and things like that. And look, you guys are creators. We want you to stay creative.
Yeah.
But there should be at least some sort of noticeability that, hey, okay, this person is a pro. Yeah. I meet so many of these people that will reach out to me, they'll message me, they'll email me, and they'll come up with the buzzword salad right away. They'll have a quick, easy solution that they make it seem like somebody else doesn't have, which is another huge red flag. Let me help you grow your YouTube. I'm like, you haven't even asked what I want to do. Maybe I don't even want to grow it, right?
My outcomes isn't growing my YouTube channel.
And then the third thing is like a process of like, hey, I want to ask you some questions about your business. I want to know what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to get me to just all of a sudden, pay a certain fee right up front.
Exactly. And you know what? I think what it does is shows the experience and time that they've put into it. Because for someone like myself, I've been in it for 20 years, ever since 2003, MySpace. Yeah. Right. And I know I was building MySpace pages. That's where I got my start. But over the years, I've learned so many different processes, systems that didn't work, and that does work, and trying to get to the outcomes that my clients and customers, want to get to. Right. But the problem that I think a lot of these newer agencies is that they heard someone say something and they apply it as if it's ironclad and Bible. But the thing is that I've learned over the years is that you got to ask more questions and like kind of walk them through a journey. Like, I am a guide, not a guru. Yeah. Right. I don't consider myself an expert. I consider myself a practitioner. Right. If doctors go to school and med school and they call themselves practices, I'm not going to go and call myself an expert. They spend so much time and knowledge studying all that. And when it comes to social media, since it is a moving target, there's tools and resources that you ought to know, but you really don't know. So you're having all these people come to you and saying, this is the solution. You're trying to get to this. I could get you there. So those are the things I would be aware of, is that you got to ask the right questions and really build a relationship with them, because they're going to really try to come at you. And that's a lot of red flags.
It just made me think about one of the questions I would, if I could go back and do it over again. And I've had some great people help me, but each one had their own things that were great. And then some things I definitely would have changed. Yeah. But one of them would have been, if I started working with you, help walk me through that process, what would it look like? Yeah. And if they kind of hem and haw and, I don't really have or they're wishy-washy, that I would go back. That would definitely be something I wish I would have known. Yeah. Just because I like processes. Yes. I want to build something together. Mm-hmm. And that means that we have to be in a predictable process. You got to get value out of it. I got to get value out of it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, especially for agencies nowadays, or even solopreneur creatives, right? They're like mostly hyper like freelancers is what I call it, right? They can't manage scalability, right? So they're trying to pick 1 to 5 clients a month that will kind of sucker into working with them, and they'll manage them for like a couple grand a month, and now they're at like their 100K. Yeah. I'm a creative making 6 figures. That's my goal. I'm like, if money's your goal, you're gonna lose, because at the end of the day, it's about the process and working with people you want to work with, and the money ought to be the reward. Right. The wealth ought to be a reward, not the goal. Yeah. So if I, as a creative, understand that wealth is a reward, and that is about generosity, generational wealth for me, using the lens of creativity, I'm going to help more people understand, and that will build upon the mission and purpose of my life as a creative. Right. To help people who run businesses, who want to build their personal brands, who want to create impact in their industry. If I understand them and I'm like, okay, so this is what you're not going to want to do. You're not going to want to make X, Y, and Z kind of content that's like trendy or anything like that, because you also carry a brand yourself. Right. So if I'm not asking you the right questions of like, hey, so tell me about your ethos. Like, why are you in this industry? Why are you in this business? Right. Like, what is your purpose? What's your mission? What's your vision? That is part of our onboarding process. Right. So it's like asking you, hey, what's your mission? What do you feel like your purpose is?
You can clearly see social media that people do, that they didn't do that preliminary work. Oh, yeah. And like, I have friends that put out some amazing high quality content, but then when I look at it, I'm like, man, that's not the guy I know. Right. That's not the dude that I hang out with and I talk to. And you get a different person on their video than you do. And I think that starts with the creative. Yeah. Didn't know them, didn't get a chance to do that.
Yeah. You get a content persona whiplash, right? So their content is positioned in this kind of like public way, but when you actually talk to them, you're like, dude, you're not like that on your social media at all. Like, if I knew this person, I would have signed a deal months ago. you know, but because you put on this persona, because someone convinced them that they got to become something that they're really not at their core, because they haven't actually built their persona into the brand. Right. So like, I like to work with people that are the same on camera and off camera. You know what I mean? Because what you get is what you get. And
your persona is your brand.
That's it.
And this is something that kind of annoys me right now. I don't know if you deal with this, but everyone's forcing this thing so fast. And they're like, I've got to do social. I got to do digital. I got to have a brand. And they're forcing it. And I'm like, man, I did shitty video for 12 years. Yes. I'm still trying to figure out who I am. People call me Cap. I don't know if that's my brand. That's what's evolved. You know, I've got the hope dealer. It's like, look, I don't call it that. We're trying to create a mission and a movement. And it's always fluid. And
it has to be
forcing it. And it's like, you could feel it. It's almost cringeworthy sometimes.
Let me tell you, even as a creative, I probably went through like over a dozen rebrands for my personal brand. You know, over the past 20 years, I've changed and evolved, and like my mission changed, my assignment changed every year because we evolve. And the thing that is at the core though is always consistently testing, learning, and adapting. Like I'm testing this out, seeing how the audience responds, and does it bring me fulfillment to continue? Like I want to get in my flow as a content creator. Right. So if someone is coming alongside of you and saying, I could do X, Y, and Z, but it's going against your flow, like they don't ask you, hey, how much time can you set aside to create content? Or do you like creating coaching content, podcast content, documentary content? Like what do you love to do? Can we create a content mechanism or vehicle around your lifestyle that makes sense for you to scale that content, you know? So those are the questions that people never really ask. And that shows really the expertise and experience that they have, or lack, or immaturity as a social media type of person that could say, I could scale X, Y, and Z. And, you know, I've closed hundreds of thousands of whatever it is. I'm like, I don't care. Like, are you speaking to me as a human being right now? Right. And do you care about my mission? Right. If you don't care about my mission, this is probably going to not work for us. You know what I mean? And do you understand my mission? Do you listen more than you're telling me what to do? Right. An expert or someone that's experienced will come in and be like, tell me about your lifestyle. Tell me about who you help. Tell me about, you know, what your mission is. Let's build a content vehicle around what you're doing that makes sense so you could go in your flow.
It's kind of like you win the lottery, and then you go and you want to buy a high performance sports car. And you've never owned one, never drove one. No, there's going to be certain car people that would sell you the fastest, most expensive car. And then there's going to be the guy that says, hey, you know, look, I know you want this one, but have you drove a sports car before? And you know what's been really great about working with you is, you know, like not everybody's going to be where they are going to build out a full studio.
That's right.
You guys are really, really good at that. But that won't be everybody. Right. And I think some people have to understand, like, hey, have I drove a sports car yet? Maybe I just need some basics. And you guys can help them with that. Right. But the reason why I bring all this up, where you've been a blessing in my life, man, is like, I was stuck at this phase of, okay, I've gotten good enough at it where I don't mind taking the next leap. And I want to create that opportunity that flows with my ethos and my brand, where like today I can say, hey, you know, let's go in there and shoot a quick episode. Boom, bam. And you've come over here and helped set this thing up. And now I've got a place when somebody's standing there and we're having a great conversation, be like, would you mind if I get that on camera? Yes. And I think that's what's so cool about Beyond and what you guys are creating is it's not forced. It's creating an opportunity and a platform where you could step into that as a mortgage lender, as a realtor, as a businessman, as a whatever it is out there. And you could say, that's my place that we can have our conversation. And that then will evolve into who you are and as a brand.
Absolutely. So. And it takes time. Well, first of all, a lot of these agencies or solopreneurs or, you know, creative freelancers, they just don't take the time to listen. I don't think they take the time and proximity to understand who you are as a brand, who you talk to, what your office feel like, what your flow feel like day to day. They don't take the time to do that. Thank you for that, by the way. Like that, I love hearing.
I think people need to understand, like, if you call people and you got enough money to be like, hey, I want a full studio. that's great. But if you're not shooting consistent content, you're not comfortable around people, and you don't have people coming, to see you and stuff, then maybe it's just getting a good camera and a good mic and a good editor is a place to start. So how can the viewers and the audience find out more about you and your company?
Yeah, well, they could check us out at executivebrandgrowth.com. And you could type in Branding Beyond Business on YouTube. That's like the podcast, but we share all kinds of stories that go beyond business. So all the business stuff that we think we love to talk about, we talk about the things that go beyond it, which is faith, family, personal branding, all those things that actually are the foundations of who you are as a person.
Yep.
That's building that business.
That's where it's at right there, folks. I mean, if you do not want to leave this earth and have people say you were a great realtor, a great lender, whatever it might be, and you want to take it further where people know about you and what you're building, this is a creative agency that will help partner with you in that. And so if you're ready to take it next level, I would definitely follow them. Or if you want them to take it beyond.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's go beyond.
There we go, baby. Thanks for being here, dude.
Dude, thanks so much, man.
Yeah.